Alright, so we're back with another GTA San Andreas ranking, but this time we're looking at intelligence. And this is going to be interesting because being smart in the criminal world looks different than being smart in like a classroom or whatever. Starting with Big Bear, and he's sitting right at average intelligence. Now we don't get a ton of time with Big Bear since he's pretty much a side character, but from what we see, he's not dumb and he's not particularly brilliant either. Back before he got hooked on crack, Big Bear was apparently a respected member of Grove Street. He held his own, people listened to him, he had a reputation. That takes at least average intelligence to build and maintain in that environment. The addiction thing doesn't necessarily make him stupid. Addiction can happen to anyone regardless of how smart they are. It's a disease, not an intelligence thing. What it does show is maybe some poor decision making, but lots of intelligent people make terrible life choices. When he's clean later on, Big Bear seems pretty capable of understanding what's happening around him. He's not confused or struggling to grasp basic concepts. He can communicate fine, he understands social dynamics, he knows what's going on. Average intelligence just means you're functioning at a normal level. You can handle day-to-day problems, you understand cause and effect, you can learn from experience when you're not impaired by substances. That's Big Bear when he's got his head straight. Big Smoke is intelligent, no question about it. And I think people sometimes miss this because they focus on how Smoke is a traitor and a snake. But being a bad person doesn't mean you're stupid. Think about what Smoke actually pulls off. He manages to betray Grove Street while staying undercover for a significant amount of time. Nobody suspects him at first. CJ doesn't know, Sweet doesn't know, nobody catches on until it's too late. That takes serious acting ability and strategic thinking. Smoke is playing multiple sides at once. He's got Grove Street thinking he's loyal, he's got the Ballast thinking he's on their team, he's working with Tenpenny and Pulaski, managing all those relationships and keeping his stories straight. That requires intelligence. He's also got pretty good understanding of psychology and manipulation. He knows how to talk to people, how to make them trust him, how to deflect suspicion. When things start getting weird, Smoke always has an explanation ready that sounds plausible enough that nobody digs deeper. CJ is intelligent, and I think the game makes this pretty clear throughout the story. He's not just muscle, he's actually a thinker. First off, CJ left Los Santos to get away from gang life and managed to build something of a life for himself in Liberty City. That shows he's capable of recognizing a bad situation and removing himself from it, which a lot of people in his position can't or won't do. CJ is also really good at reading situations and adapting on the fly. He figures out pretty quick that something's off with Smoke and Ryder, even if he doesn't have proof yet. He navigates complicated relationships with different gangs and factions. He knows when to fight and when to talk. The way he handles Tenpenny shows intelligence too. CJ knows he's trapped, knows he can't just kill a cop without major consequences, so he plays along while looking for an opportunity to break free. That's strategic thinking under pressure. CJ also builds an entire business empire across San Andreas. The properties, the assets, the connections. He's not just taking orders, he's becoming a legitimate power player. That requires understanding economics, management, networking, all skills that demand solid intelligence. Where CJ really shines though is adaptability. He goes from street gang member to mob associate to business owner to government asset, and he figures out how to succeed in each role. That kind of versatility comes from being genuinely intelligent. Catalina is dumb as rocks, and I don't think that's even controversial to say. Look, being violent and aggressive doesn't make you smart. And Catalina's entire approach to everything is just chaos and screaming and threatening to shoot people. There's no strategy there, no planning, no thinking ahead. Every robbery you do with her is loud and messy and attracts way more attention than necessary. A smart criminal would be trying to minimize risk and get in and out clean. Catalina makes everything into a massive scene that guarantees the cops are coming. She also has zero impulse control, which is a pretty clear sign of lack of intelligence. Smart people can delay gratification and think about consequences. Catalina just reacts emotionally to everything in the most extreme way possible. Her relationship decisions are idiotic too. She breaks up with CJ for no clear reason, then immediately starts dating Claude, apparently just to make CJ jealous. That's middle school level emotional intelligence. Actually no, that's insulting to middle schoolers. The fact that she eventually gets herself killed in GTA 3 by being too greedy and reckless shows that she never learns or grows. She just keeps making the same impulsive, stupid decisions until they finally catch up with her. Catalina operates purely on emotion and aggression, with basically no thought process behind it. That's textbook dumb behavior. She's unpredictable because she's not thinking, she's just reacting. Some people might argue that she's successful at robbing places, so she must have some intelligence, but honestly, she succeeds mostly because she's so unhinged that people are too scared or confused to stop her. That's not intelligence, that's just being terrifyingly crazy. Cesar is intelligent, and I think he's one of the more underrated smart characters in the game. First thing that shows Caesar's intelligence is how he handles the relationship with Kendl, knowing that Sweet doesn't approve. He's respectful, he doesn't push things, he lets his actions speak for themselves. That's emotional intelligence and social awareness. Cesar is also the one who figures out that something's wrong with Smoke and Ryder before anyone else does. He sees them meeting with the Ballast and he immediately connects the dots and tells CJ that's good observational skills and logical reasoning. He's also running a successful car theft and street racing operation with the Aztecas. That's a business that requires technical knowledge about cars, organizational skills to manage a crew, and social skills to maintain relationships with buyers. All of that demands intelligence. Cesar never does anything flashy or over the top, which might make people overlook how smart he is. But if you actually watch what he does throughout the game, he's consistently making good decisions and providing valuable insight. Tenpenny is genius level, and honestly, he might be the smartest character in the entire game. Think about the operation this man is running. He's a corrupt cop who's basically controlling the entire criminal underworld of Los Santos while maintaining his position of authority and avoiding any consequences for years. That's incredibly complex to pull off. Tenpenny understands systems and how to exploit them. He knows exactly how to use his badge as both a shield and a weapon. He knows how to manipulate evidence, how to intimidate witnesses, how to make sure investigations never go anywhere. That's sophisticated understanding of institutional power. He's playing 4D chess with everyone around him. He's got CJ doing jobs for him by holding the murder charges over his head. He's got different gangs fighting each other so they're too busy to notice what he's doing. He's got officers under him who are either corrupt or too scared to speak up. He's managing all these moving pieces simultaneously. Tenpenny also has masterful psychological manipulation skills. He knows exactly what buttons to push with people. He can switch from friendly to threatening in a second. He understands people's weaknesses and exploits them ruthlessly. The only reason Tenpenny ultimately fails is because the sheer scale of his corruption becomes impossible to contain, not because he makes any obvious stupid mistakes. It takes basically the entire game's worth of events working against him to finally bring him down. Genius tier is reserved for characters who are operating on a completely different level intellectually than everyone around them. Tenpenny absolutely qualifies. Hernandez sits at somewhat intelligent, and that feels about right for his character. Hernandez is smart enough to understand that what he's doing is wrong. He's got the moral awareness to know that Tenpenny and Pulaski are corrupt, and that he's complicit in it. That shows a level of critical thinking that puts him above average. He's also smart enough to eventually start working with internal affairs to try to bring down Tenpenny. He recognizes that there might be a way out, and he takes it. That's problem-solving ability, even if it's too little too late. But here's where Hernandez falls short of being fully intelligent. He got into this situation in the first place by not being smart enough to avoid it or stand up to Tenpenny early on. A more intelligent person might have found a way to transfer out, or reported things sooner, or just refused to participate from the start. He also doesn't seem to fully grasp how dangerous Tenpenny and Pulaski are until it's way too late. He's cooperating with IA, but he's not taking proper precautions to protect himself. That lack of threat assessment costs him his life. Kendl is somewhat intelligent, and she shows it in specific ways throughout the game. Kendl is smart enough to see that gang life is destroying her family and her neighborhood. She's got the perspective to step back and look at the bigger picture, which neither of her brothers really have. That's abstract thinking ability. She's also good at reading people. She knows Cesar is a good guy even when Sweet is being stubborn about it. She can tell when her brothers are making bad decisions. She's got solid social intelligence, but she's not in the intelligent tier because she doesn't really have any specialized skills or exceptional capabilities. She's smart in practical, everyday ways, but she's not doing anything that requires genius-level thinking or even particularly advanced reasoning. She also sometimes lets her emotions override her judgment, like when she gets frustrated with her brothers and says things that make situations worse rather than better. Truly intelligent people usually have better emotional regulation and communication skills. Somewhat intelligent is that zone where you're clearly smarter than average and you contribute meaningfully, but you're not exceptional. That's Kendl. She's a smart woman in a tough situation doing her best, but she's not outthinking everyone around her. Pulaski is dumb, and honestly, it's kind of amazing he's lasted as long as he has as a corrupt cop. The first thing that shows Pulaski's lack of intelligence is how obvious he is about being corrupt. He's constantly saying and doing things that make it clear he's dirty. A smart corrupt cop would be more subtle. But Pulaski is just blatantly abusing his power in ways that attract attention. He's also got terrible impulse control. He's quick to violence and threats even when it doesn't benefit him. That scene where he's planning to kill Hernandez and CJ in the desert shows how poorly he thinks things through. His plan is basically just shoot them and hope nobody notices, which is idiotic. Pulaski follows Tenpenny's lead in everything, which shows he's not capable of independent, strategic thinking. He needs someone smarter telling him what to do. When things start falling apart and Tenpenny isn't around to give orders, Pulaski just panics and makes things worse. He also completely fails to see that his partnership with Tenpenny is eventually going to end badly for him. A smarter person would recognize that Tenpenny will throw anyone under the bus to save himself, but Pulaski seems genuinely shocked when things go south. The fact that CJ is able to kill him shows poor tactical thinking too. Pulaski puts himself in a vulnerable position and doesn't have any backup plan. He's running on emotion and adrenaline with no actual strategy. Dumb doesn't mean incompetent necessarily. Pulaski is dangerous because he's violent and has a badge, but he's not dangerous because he's smart. He's dangerous because he's unpredictable and vicious, which is different. Ryder is average intelligence, maybe on the lower end of average honestly. Ryder functions fine in his day-to-day life. He can participate in missions, he understands basic strategy, he can drive and shoot and do the things you need to do as a gang member. That's baseline competency that puts him at average. He's also got some street knowledge. He knows the neighborhood, he knows the players, he's aware of what's going on around him. That's practical intelligence that matters in his world. But Ryder is also really easy to manipulate, which shows a lack of critical thinking. Smoke was able to convince him to betray Grove Street, which means Ryder didn't think through the consequences or question what he was being told. Average intelligence people can be swayed by smarter manipulators. Ryder also doesn't really contribute any innovative ideas or solutions to problems. He's more of a follower than a leader. He does what he's told and goes along with plans other people make. That's pretty typical average intelligence behavior. His paranoia actually might make him slightly below average. He's constantly worried about CIA and government conspiracies, which shows he's not great at distinguishing real threats from imaginary ones. That's poor critical analysis. Sweet is somewhat intelligent, which might surprise some people, but I think it's accurate. Sweet has good leadership qualities, which require a certain level of intelligence. He's kept Grove Street together through some really tough times. People follow him and respect him, which means he understands how to motivate and organize people. Sweet understands loyalty and how to build it. He knows that respect and family ties are what keep the gang strong. That's sophisticated social understanding. But Sweet has major blind spots that keep him from being fully intelligent. He's incredibly rigid in his thinking and can't adapt to changing circumstances. When CJ tries to tell him they need to think differently about things, Sweet shuts him down. That's lack of intellectual flexibility. He also lets pride and emotion cloud his judgment frequently. He makes decisions based on respect and territory that aren't always strategically sound. He'll start conflicts over symbolic issues rather than thinking about what's actually best for the people he's trying to protect. Sweet is smart in traditional leadership ways but lacks the strategic thinking and adaptability that would make him truly intelligent. He's got wisdom in some areas and blind spots in others, which puts him right in that somewhat intelligent category. Woozie is somewhat intelligent, and before people come at me saying he should be higher because he runs a successful triad, let me explain. Woozie is definitely smart in certain ways. He's running a complex organization, he's managing relationships with other criminal groups, he's operating a casino. All of that requires organizational skills and business sense. He's also got excellent people skills. He's built loyalty among his crew despite being blind, which is impressive. He knows how to read social situations through audio cues and intuition. That's a specialized intelligence that shouldn't be overlooked. But here's the thing, we don't really see Woozie coming up with particularly innovative strategies or solving complex problems on his own. A lot of his success seems to come from having good people around him and being a fair leader rather than from his own genius. We are so done. So what's your thoughts about this video? Let me know in comments and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.